Amartya Sen's Development as Freedom is a landmark book. Published in 1999, it offers a fresh perspective on development. Sen, a Nobel laureate in economics, argues for a more human-centered approach. He challenges traditional economic measures that focus solely on material wealth. The book has garnered significant praise. It is lauded for its emphasis on individual liberties and opportunities. Critics, however, point out some shortcomings. They argue that Sen doesn't fully address the complexities of global power structures. Despite these critiques, Development as Freedom remains deeply influential. It continues to shape debates about development strategies and goals. Sen's work is a call to action. He urges policymakers to move beyond simple economic indicators. Instead, he advocates for a holistic view of human progress. Sen's book is not just an academic treatise, it is a powerful statement about human potential. It emphasizes the importance of creating societies that enable individuals to thrive. This means ensuring not just material well-being, but also political freedoms and social opportunities. Amartya Sen's central thesis is clear and powerful. Freedom is the essence of development. He argues that freedom is not just an outcome of development, but also its driving force. This perspective challenges conventional economic thought. Traditional views often see economic growth as the primary goal, with freedom as a potential byproduct. Sen flips this script. He posits that freedom is both the means and the end of development. This means that expanding individual freedoms is not just morally right, it is also economically effective. When people have greater agency, they can contribute more fully to society. This interconnectedness of freedom and development is key to Sen's argument. He provides compelling evidence to support his claim. He demonstrates that societies with greater freedoms tend to experience more rapid and sustainable development. Sen provides two compelling reasons to prioritize freedom in development. First, he argues that expanding human freedom is the most accurate measure of progress. This goes beyond simply increasing income or material wealth. It encompasses a broader range of freedoms, such as political participation, social opportunities, and access to education and healthcare. Second, Sen emphasizes that development is fundamentally about expanding people's choices. When individuals have more agency, they can better shape their own destinies. This leads to a more dynamic and equitable society. This focus on individual agency is a cornerstone of Sen's philosophy. He argues that true development cannot be imposed from above. It must be driven by the aspirations and capabilities of individuals. Sen critiques the traditional focus on GDP as the primary measure of development. He points out that high GDP growth does not necessarily translate into improved well-being for all citizens. A country can have a high GDP while also suffering from widespread inequality, poverty, and a lack of basic freedoms. Sen also challenges the Lee thesis, a controversial argument that prioritizes economic growth over political freedoms. This thesis, often associated with the rapid development of Singapore and other East Asian economies, suggests that authoritarian regimes can be more effective in delivering economic progress. Sen rejects this view. He argues that political freedoms and civil liberties are not merely desirable byproducts of development, but essential components of it. He provides evidence that democratic societies, with their emphasis on accountability and responsiveness to citizens' needs, are more likely to achieve sustainable and equitable development. Section 5, the 5 pillars of freedom. Sen identifies 5 instrumental freedoms that are crucial for development. These are political freedoms, economic facilities, social opportunities, transparency guarantees, and protective security. Each of these freedoms plays a vital role in enabling individuals to live fulfilling and productive lives. Political freedoms encompass the right to participate in the political process, including free and fair elections, freedom of speech, and freedom of association. Economic facilities refer to access to resources and opportunities that allow individuals to participate in the economy, such as access to credit, markets, and secure property rights. Social opportunities encompass access to education, healthcare, and other social services that enable individuals to live healthy and productive lives. Transparency guarantees ensure that individuals have access to information and can hold institutions accountable. Protective security provides a safety net for individuals during times of economic hardship or social upheaval. Section 6, the individualistic critique. One of the main criticisms leveled against Sen's work is its focus on individual freedom and agency. Critics argue that this emphasis on individualism neglects the importance of social structures, historical context, and collective action in shaping development outcomes. They point out that individuals do not exist in a vacuum. Their choices and opportunities are constrained by social norms, power dynamics, and historical legacies of inequality. These factors can limit the impact of individual agency, even when individuals have access to greater freedoms. Critics also argue that Sen's focus on individual capabilities overlooks the role of collective action and social movements in challenging injustice and promoting social change. They point to the importance of labor unions, civil rights organizations, and other social movements in advancing the interests of marginalized groups and pushing for a more just and equitable society. Section 7. The market's role and social institutions. Sen acknowledges the positive role that markets can play in fostering economic growth and expanding opportunities. He argues that markets can be powerful engines of innovation, efficiency, and wealth creation. However, he also emphasizes that markets are not a panacea. Sen is critical of unregulated markets. He argues that they can exacerbate inequality and lead to social exclusion. He believes that the state has a crucial role to play in regulating markets, providing public goods, and ensuring a safety net for the most vulnerable. Sen also highlights the importance of social institutions in shaping development outcomes. He argues that strong social institutions such as families, communities, and civil society organizations are essential for building social cohesion, promoting trust, and fostering a sense of shared purpose. He believes that these institutions can play a vital role in complementing the market and the state, creating a more balanced and equitable society. Section 8. Capability versus capital. Sen draws a clear distinction between human capital and human capability. Human capital, a more traditional economic concept, focuses on the skills and knowledge that individuals possess. These are seen as investments that can increase productivity and economic growth. Human capability, on the other hand, is a broader concept. It encompasses the freedom that individuals have to choose the lives they want to lead. This includes not just economic opportunities, but also access to education, healthcare, and other factors that contribute to well-being. Sen argues that human capability is a more accurate measure of development than human capital. He believes that development should be judged not just by what people can produce, but by what they can be and do. This means creating a society where individuals have the freedom to pursue their own goals and live fulfilling lives, regardless of their economic circumstances. Section 9. The Western bias critique. Some critics argue that Sen's work is influenced by a Western individualistic worldview. They point out that his emphasis on individual rights and freedoms reflects a liberal tradition that is not universally shared. In many cultures, community values, social harmony, and collective identities are given greater weight than individual autonomy. These critics argue that Sen's focus on individual agency may not be appropriate or effective in all contexts. They suggest that development strategies should be sensitive to local cultures and values, rather than imposing a one-size-fits-all approach based on Western liberal ideals. While acknowledging the importance of cultural context, Sen's proponents argue that the desire for freedom and the ability to make choices about one's life are universal human aspirations. They maintain that Sen's framework, with its emphasis on expanding human capabilities, provides a valuable starting point for thinking about development in diverse contexts. Section 10. The global capitalism gap. A significant critique of Sen's work is its lack of focus on the global structures of power and inequality. Critics argue that Sen does not adequately address the role of global capitalism, colonialism, and neo-imperialism in perpetuating poverty and underdevelopment in many parts of the world. They point out that even when individuals have greater freedoms within their own countries, their life chances can be severely constrained by global economic forces beyond their control. These forces can include unfair trade rules, volatile financial markets, and the dominance of multinational corporations. Critics argue that a more complete understanding of development requires analyzing these global power structures and challenging the systems that perpetuate inequality. They call for a more radical approach to development that addresses the root causes of poverty and injustice, rather than simply focusing on individual freedoms within a flawed global system. Section 11. Famine and the Power of Democracy. Sen's work on famine has been particularly influential. He argues that famines are not simply natural disasters, but are often man-made tragedies rooted in political and economic failures. He famously asserted that no famine has ever taken place in the history of the world in a functioning democracy. Sen's point is that democratic governments, with their emphasis on accountability and responsiveness to citizens' needs, are less likely to allow famines to occur. In democratic societies, governments are held accountable for their actions, and citizens have the power to demand action to address food shortages and prevent mass starvation. Sen's work on famine highlights the crucial link between political freedoms and economic security. He demonstrates that ensuring basic human rights, such as the right to food and the right to participate in government, is not just a moral imperative, but also a practical necessity for preventing human suffering and promoting development. Section 12. Sen's enduring relevance. Amartya Sen's Development as Freedom remains a seminal work in development discourse. His ideas continue to resonate with policymakers, academics, and activists around the world. Sen's focus on human well-being, individual agency, and the importance of freedom has shifted the development paradigm away from a narrow focus on economic growth towards a broader understanding of human progress. While critiques of Sen's work, particularly his focus on individualism and his lack of attention to global power structures, are important to consider, his contributions to development thinking are undeniable. Sen's work reminds us that true development is about expanding human choices and creating a world where everyone has the opportunity to live a life they value. In today's world, marked by complex global challenges such as climate change, inequality, and technological disruption, Sen's ideas are more relevant than ever. His work provides a valuable framework for thinking about how to create a more just, equitable, and sustainable future for all.